And welcome to another edition of South Texas Crossfire. This is Attorney Joe Flores reminding you to join us each and every week right here on KTMV with the Lopez family. Special thanks to Don Humberto Lozano Lopez. He passed away in 2011, but he's honored, he's venerated, and he's never forgotten on this show. And my good friend Carlos Lopez, you guessed it, the Ted Turner of South Texas Broadcasting. And I've got a great guest with me today. He is throwing down the gauntlet. He wants to be your district attorney here in Nueces County, and that's none other than James Sayles. Welcome, James. How are you?
Thanks, Joe. I'm doing awesome. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate you coming on. Now, let's just lay our cards on the table. You know I'm a Democrat. You know I bleed blue on that. But I also want everybody to get a fair opportunity to come out. You have thrown down the gauntlet and say Democrat, Republican, Independent, Tea Party, whatever. You will be the better district attorney, and let's just put everything aside. People want to know who you are. Let's first talk about your education, training, and background, and your family.
I'm a fighting Ray Texan, class of 1984, went to Del Mar College, 86, Corpus Christi State University, back in the day, Joe. 1988, went to law school, University of Houston, graduated there, and started private practice for a while. But found my niche in prosecution. Been doing that for 19 years. I'm married and have a wonderful 9-year-old son.
Yes, and I met him. Yeah, he's about my daughter's age. And so you are here, and where's your present position? I know it's here near lunchtime. I appreciate you taking a break from your schedule. Are you doing prosecuting right now?
I've been in Beeville the past 3 years. I still live in Corpus. I just drive back and forth every day, preparing for November 6, 2012. But my job title is border prosecutor for the gangs and the drug cartels and alien smugglers, weapon smugglers, and drug smugglers.
Well, let's get into that. You know, so many people right now out there, voters, Democrats, Republicans, Independents, they're worried because we're 2-3 hours from the border. The cartel obviously has had a devastating effect on our friends down south in Mexico and here. We've got plenty of people that have relatives in Mexico that are lawfully here in the United States, and they worry about their loved ones every day. Tell us about that war that's raging down there, the war on drugs, and can you tell us what exactly the situation is right now?
Well, the big problem, of course, is the demand from the United States. If we can get our people off of drugs and get them to treatment, if we can heal our own people, then there will be less of a demand and less violence and to our brothers and sisters down in Mexico. So ideally we would treat that problem. But without that happening, you have the drug cartels at war with each other to gain control and power, and they're starting to take out law enforcement officers also. So innocent people are becoming more likely to become victims, and they're moving our way. And you need someone who has a history of standing tough against violent crime, and I believe I'm that person.
Well, and Corpus Christi is no stranger to the drug trade passing through us because we are a Gulf city. We're right here on the Gulf of Mexico. So what kind of drugs are you seeing passing from the border from Mexico all the way up to Beeville? And of course, Houston is one of the epicenters for drugs and aliens. What are you seeing, the big busts that are happening between here and Beeville?
You know, thousands of pounds of marijuana, of course, cocaine and methamphetamine are most of what we're seeing.
What are you seeing as the most devastating drug to our children and to our families?
Methamphetamine, ice, that gets broken down and it knows no socioeconomic factor. It takes somebody's life and it is hard to get off. The people shrink away, their teeth start falling. Their
meth mouth, as they call it. Yeah,
yes, when beautiful young people, and it just destroys their appearance and destroys lives and families. It's horrible.
Well, and let's take the gloves off here. You said you're here in Corpus. You're a proud Corpus Christian. Del Mar, Corpus Christi State before it became Texas A&M. Ray Texans. Okay, so your opponent is also from here. Now, people would ask, well, okay, if he loves this community so much, why isn't he still at that district attorney's office in Nueces County? And you're doing a great job for border security, for drugs, but if they're saying if you're running for the office, why can't you be working in the Nueces County district attorney's office right now?
Because 3 years ago there was a political play. Carlos Valdez had said that he was going to, that was going to be his last terms. Well, Carlos, I'd be very interested in running for that position. He says, well, James, if you want to run, our policy will no longer be that you can run out of this office.
Ah, I see.
So you'd have to quit. Now, my choice was, well, I can make more money representing criminal defendants, but that's just not my heart. That's just not my calling. So I wanted to stay a prosecutor, and I have an obligation as a man to feed my family.
Right.
So before I resigned there, I went and made sure I found another job. It was an hour away with Martha Warner in Beeville, and she knew I was going to make this run in 2012. I have never left Corpus Christi. I still reside in my same house here. I drive to Beeville, put people in prison there, and come back to Corpus. It was a 3-year commitment I made that included time away from my family,
Sure.
so I could run for the spot.
Well, and a lot of people know you, your reputation as a hard prosecutor, quote unquote hard. We talked about this. One of your passions is graffiti, to fight against the anti-graffiti movement, where a lot of people, I don't care if you're low socioeconomic status, living on Ocean Drive on the other end, whether you're in River Oaks in Houston or whether you're down in McAllen, people despise graffiti. And people are tired of it. But people, on the other hand, will say, oh my gosh, that 18-year-old guy got 7 years for graffiti or 10 years. How do you answer those people on the other side who say they're just babies, they're young, why are we sending them away for so many years?
18-year-olds can vote. 18-year-olds can join the military and risk their lives. They can make that type of decision to serve their country. In fact, there are 18-year-olds dying overseas for our country. So I don't feel bad when an 18-year-old, rather than going to school, rather than going to work, goes to somebody's house that they paid 20 years off of, and they've done everything they can, taking care of their yard, making nice fences, that can be destroyed in seconds by this irresponsible, hateful, and selfish conduct. We're not talking about a crime that is caused by a drug addiction or anything like that. It's about respect, and it's about meanness. Now, you don't throw them away the very first time. You try to address those issues in discipline, maybe some boot camps, teach them that. But if they thumb their nose at the system, my priority is the citizens of Corpus Christi, not the criminals.
So you've been in, a lot of people, out of those 19 years of prosecuting, how many were in graffiti and gangs right here in Nueces County? I mean, this was up to the very near future, near past, where it was 2007, 2008, 2009, you were here and you were prosecuting what was the most horrible of the graffiti crimes that you've seen, without getting into too much detail, names, parties, or families, but what was one of the worst graffiti cases that you saw that warranted hard jail time?
Well, I've been prosecuting gangs for 10 years, and there was one particular young man who had 3 or 4 different times. He was put on probation. Let's get our restitution to the victim. We want to make our victims whole. Let's get them their money back. Mm-hmm. But he was actually, in a statement to a police officer, said, I'm never going to quit. I'm going to do this forever. I like doing it.
Graffiti.
Graffiti, yes. And so he was arrested yet again.
Wow.
Went into the city detention center, Joe, on camera, in the holding cell, started committing graffiti on the holding cell there. Just okay. The ultimate blank you
yes.
to authority.
Right.
And what are you going to do about it? Well, this is what we're going to do about it.
Yes.
Went to a judge, and he got an 8-year prison sentence for graffiti.
All right. So, but a lot of this is not just the prosecutor. The judge has broad discretion. It's in the jury's hands. Sentencing isn't for the district attorney. You have recommendations. But as you said, there are progressive sanctions. You don't just wake up one morning and say, this kid had a marker on his hand. He marked up a bench that was school property or whatever. I'm going to give him 8 years in the pen or recommend that.
Right. There is a history of behavior where years in the juvenile system, there have been attempts made to reach, because the juvenile system is about rehabilitation. It's not about punishment. It's about reintegrating them with the family and making things work and trying to produce a future for them. The people that have been sent to prison for graffiti are men, 18, 19, 20, 21, not kids.
Well, and we got a couple of minutes left, but I wanted to touch on another area that you're handling, which is our gangs. I mean, you've done some gang prosecution, to say the least. And how are you seeing the gang problem here in Corpus? And we'll get more into it when we come back, but how are you seeing that gang problem? Is there a gang problem here?
Yes, and as soon as you close your eyes or put your hand over your eyes, your ears, and pretend or hope that it'll go away, it'll just get worse. You know, back in the day, I was getting 50-year sentences, life sentences. We were receiving death threats.
You, the prosecutors, were receiving death threats for doing your job.
I received 4 death threats. I got attacked in the courtroom by a member of the Mexican Mafia. I was actually physically hit, had glass put in my food at a restaurant. I mean, there were physical consequences to going into court and saying, I'm announcing ready for the state of Texas and for the people. But that's part of the cost.
Well, and you know, so you've put away some very dangerous people. When we come back, we're going to talk about, you know, what your plan is if you are elected by these couple of 100,000 Nueces County voters to serve here. So we're with James Sayles. He's running to be Nueces County District Attorney in November. Don't forget to register to vote. And however you vote, just vote, register to vote. Recuerda que su voto es su voz. Si no estás registrado, no puedes quejar después. So we're going to take a brief break. When we come back, you'll be here with James Sayles, our guest, running for Nueces County District Attorney when we come back.
Hola, soy Joe Flores, abogado, pidiéndole a la comunidad hispana que se formen parte del Partido Demócrata. Los demócratas son conocidos como el Partido de Derechos Civiles y Derechos para todos los hispanos. Grupos como LULAC y el GI Forum iniciaron en Corpus Christi. Republicanos quieren quitarle derechos a niños y mujeres y programas importantes. Involúcrese, regístrese para votar y recuerde que el Partido Demócrata no es el partido del pobre, es el partido de justicia social para todos.
I think it's a betrayal of public trust. That is just not ethical.
I left the Democratic Party because of her.
The reason is because you're taking Republican money.
The money of those people that pay me as a consultant. What are you taking? What did you take in Crosstown? Took money. I saw it and I saw them pay your checks.
Okay, hold on. Everybody.
Call River City Hospice for your loved one's care today. River City Hospice is a compassionate, patient-centered healthcare provider with a unique approach to medical care and support for people at the end of life and their families. River City Hospice focuses on maintaining dignity, increasing quality of life, and providing comfort and reducing pain due to illness. Hospice care allows your loved one to be treated with dignity and respect and gives them the right to choose. Call 882-5900 today. Hope, dignity, and love. It's got to be River City Hospice. Have you been arrested or are potentially facing criminal charges? You need a trial attorney who is well-versed in the courtroom. Joe Flores has handled hundreds of criminal cases and many of them to trial. Joe Flores can provide you with competent representation to protect your constitutional rights in state and federal court. Joe Flores can help if you have been arrested or facing criminal charges. The law offices of Joe Flores. Equal justice for all.